Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. The 2023 NFL Combine has wrapped up. Going to be taking a look at some position groups, giving you guys some winners, losers. If you guys are not new to the channel, you know I don't put too much stock into the NFL Combine. It's more of like a confirmation of what you've seen on the film, but there are guys who can kind of stand out. And we talked about some of the players recapping day one. We're going to be recapping some of the other position groups, mainly the wide receivers. I want to talk about this wide receiver class and kind of some of the guys that stood out for me. Before we get into it, though, I just want to say thank you to you guys again. We say this a lot, but truly the support means an absolute ton. Over 4,200 subscribers on the channel. NFL draft season is an absolute blast. Discussing prospects, how you see them on the film. We have a blast talking with you guys in the comment section. So again, if you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let's jump into it. Let's talk about this wide receiving group and talk first with the 40-yard dash. That is obviously the most exciting. And when it comes to taking what combine testing matters kind of the most, scouts and GMs care about the 40. Like statistically and historically, guys who run blazing 40s at that wide receiver spot get drafted higher. It's a massive way to move yourself up the board. Taking a look at some of the guys who had really big days. Bryce Ford Wheaton, I have to start out. You see Trey Palmer running the 4.33. Trey Palmer at Nebraska is a very good vertical threat, and this definitely helped his draft stock in the sense that he plays the ball when the ball's in the air vertically down the field. He's one of the best to do it. When Nebraska hit explosive plays, it was because Trey Palmer was able to get behind the defense. Darius Davis, you knew was going to fly. Two guys I kind of want to talk about. Bryce Ford Wheaton. I mean, he is a big dude. You take a look at how big he is. That's a very, very impressive time of a 4.38. He tested extremely well all day. Also had a very good vertical jump too. Well, you're talking about a dude who has 33.5-inch arms. He's 6'4". He's 221 pounds. That's a really good time for him. And when you talk about some of the dudes who are bigger and can stretch the field and can play above the rim, Bryce Ford Wheaton put himself in a little bit more of probably early day 3 conversation with the testing. Some other guys to highlight, Jalen Hyatt. He's a more of a game speed than a track speed kind of guy. He gets going extremely quick. 4.4, maybe not as fast as some people would have thought it would have been. But when you watch the film, he makes other DBs in the SEC look slow. It's not the fastest time in the world. It's not a time that's necessarily going to vault him into a top 20, top 25 draft pick. But it's a solid time. Zay Flowers, I thought, was really impressive with his 40 because he's more of a guy that wins with separation and wins with kind of short area quicks. 4.42. He also weighed in at 182 pounds. So he put on some serious weight. That was a nice time for him getting down this list. I thought A.T. Perry's 4.47. That's really good because he's another guy similar to Bryce Ford Wheaton, who's a bigger dude with longer arms. And in this draft class, most of these wide receivers who you're talking about as top 5, top 10 wide receivers in this class are smaller guys who kind of play on the inside and create separation. A.T. Perry's a dude over 30 touchdowns in his career at Wake Forest with a nice 4.47. Some guys who I didn't really think helped their draft stock that much. Kayshon Boutte with a 4.5. He's battled injuries. Obviously, he was a guy that wanted to remind people at the combine why he was a preseason top 15 player on people's board, was wide receiver 1 according to many. I don't think he did that. He didn't test extremely well with the vertical jumps either. Then Jordan Addison. I'm not panicking with Jordan Addison. He's a smooth mover. He's not a twitched up mover. I wasn't expecting him to run a blazing 40. And so again, I'm not necessarily too concerned with him either. And then getting to the low guys, maybe some guys who didn't necessarily help their stock. Jaden Hazelwood with a 4.66. Former 5-star dude from Oklahoma, transferred to Arkansas. He didn't really test well, especially from a guy who was formerly a top 5 player nationally out of high school. I want to check out, and this is what I want to talk about with this wide receiver position. Like Jackson Smith in the jig, but didn't run the 40, and you know he's not going to run the fastest 40 ever, but measured in 6'1", 197 pounds. So he's a bigger dude, 6'5", 7'3" cone. That is 0.3 of a second faster than any other wide receiver in this class, and that's how he wins. He was never going to run a blazing 40. He might run it at his pro day, and I don't even think he needs to because you understand why he wins, and we've been saying this for a long time. He's not necessarily the biggest, most twitched up athlete. He gets that wide receiver position better than anybody else does in that class, and the 6'5", 3 cone really shows it. He is a smooth mover. He gets in and out extremely well, and he showed it with the 3 cone. And again, when you talk about guys who get that wide receiver position, there's not a better wide receiver in this class in terms of getting the position, understanding where the zone coverage is, where to find the passing lanes, how to create separation in man coverage than Jackson Smith the Jig, but he showed it on the 3-cone drill. Another position that I kind of want to talk about, and this is a position group that is absolutely loaded, is the tight end group. Getting more towards the 40, the 10-yard splits. I want to highlight a guy, Luke Musgrave, who's 6'6", 255 pounds, running a 4.61. I think he's a first-round tight end, and I don't say that very much, but when you talk about a dude who is the stereotypical matchup nightmare with too big for linebacker, or too big for safeties to deal with, too small or too fast for linebackers to deal with, I got that mixed up a little bit. Luke Musgrave's that guy. I mean, he's extremely fast, but he's also very, very big, and he's going to work the middle of the field extremely well. A guy that Darnell Washington, I was telling people he's going to move faster than people thought. He is a linear athlete. You have some question marks about how he can move laterally, how he can get in and out of breaks, but he's gonna be a guy that I think he's not going to be a guy creating a ton of separation, but in terms of being bigger, being able to catch the ball when you're not necessarily open with a big body, I think Darnell Washington is going to surprise a lot of people. The one guy I want to talk about, Michael Mayer, he came in lighter than a lot of people thought. I mean, checking his weight again, it struck me as something that was not as heavy as you thought he would come in, and as he was probably playing at Notre Dame. And you thought a 249, you thought he was probably going to run a little bit faster at 40 than he did. Michael Mayer continues to be a guy that's really, really good at the position, but there's not anything really elite. He's not the smoothest mover. He's not the most explosive mover. And in terms of, we lost her. In terms of taking a tight end in the first round who doesn't really have an elite trait, I don't know if I'm sold on it. And so Luke Musgrave kind of becoming that guy who I really like at that position. Getting to the running backs and just straight up hand, like Devon Achane, you knew he was going to run fast. 4.32 kind of just verifies. I was hoping he'd break the record. 4.32, obviously not that. Hand up with Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, he was a guy that I thought he's much more of a smooth mover, kind of like we were talking about Jackson Smith the Jig, but I didn't think he was the most twitched up dude. I didn't think he was the most linear, fastest running back. 4.36 is a phenomenal time. And in terms of how does he stack up in this running back class, that's a number that's going to help you kind of solidify maybe that RB2 spot. And then another guy I just maybe wrong on, Chase Brown. He was as solid as it gets running back out of Illinois. Tested extremely well. A 4.43 40 is extremely well. I want to see what he weighed in at. This dude is rocked up. And he's not necessarily the tallest guy, but he runs the ball extremely hard. And him and his twin brother, Sydney from Illinois, like, they live in the weight room. 5'9.5", 209 pounds. Again, like, you check out the athletic. Like, I didn't think he was the athlete that a lot of people thought he was. And he proved me wrong. I mean, I believe he jumped a 41 on the vertical. I want to check his vertical real quick. But again, this vertical, 40 inches vertical, like, that is extremely good. I didn't think he was that kind of athlete. So again, might have been wrong here. And then the kind of the story of the combine, Anthony Richardson jumping out of the gym for a quarterback. And then you take a look at the 40-yard dash. I mean, 4.43 40, and he's faster than most wide receivers. That is the same time Zay Flowers ran. That is faster time than Kayshon Boutte ran out of LSU. I get it. The film isn't great. There's going to be a team. There's going to be a head coach. There's going to be an offense coordinator. There's going to be a GM that says, give me Anthony Richardson. Let me work with him. And this dude can be an MVP of the league. And again, he's raw. He probably needs a year. The film at Florida wasn't great. But in terms of being a special athlete at 245 pounds, that is an absolutely silly number that Anthony Richardson ran. Edge class, where we got to talk about Nolan Smith real quick. We talked a little bit about him earlier, but 4.39, what I want to kind of emphasize a little bit more is how explosive he is. A 1.52 get off, like the 10-yard split. This dude teleports off the line of scrimmage, and people kind of forgot he was a number 1 overall recruit out of high school. You don't get that ranking for no reason. Nolan Smith really kind of showing out there. And then 41.5-inch vertical. Again, he continues to show why he was a number 1 overall pick and interviewed extremely well. I expect him to be a guy that a lot of people like. And then the last group that you want to kind of take a look at, maybe just a player kind of to summarize that. Two players from this linebacker room. Owen Popo was a guy that I kind of want to highlight first. An absolutely silly 40-yard dash, a 4.39, again, faster than most receivers. He's not the biggest dude, but this dude is rocked up. Trenton Simpson tested about as well as we thought he was. Like, the people saying Trenton Simpson didn't test well are goofy. Like 235 pounds, a 4.43. That's extremely good. He's extremely explosive for his size, and that's kind of the reason a lot of the NFL draft community has him as a linebacker one. Owen Popo continues to be a guy throughout the offseason that is inching his way up to be a top 100 prospect. 4.3940 is extremely well. Want to know something wild, though? Take a look at his bench. I mean, this dude is 225 pounds, benching 29 times 225. Like, more than Noah Sewell, who is, believe, a good 30 pounds heavier than him, sitting at 255. So that's an extremely good day out of Owen Popo. And the last guy I kind of want to highlight, and he didn't kill it by any means, but he kind of answered some questions, is Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell, a lot of people were like, is he the athlete? The film is the best. He's the best linebacker film in this class. Is he the athlete that can make it happen at the next level? A 4.65 kind of mitigates those concerns. Like, if you had question marks about him going sideline to sideline, I believe those were answered. And then you take a look at kind of the shorter area quickness, the vertical, top 3 with a 37.5. The broad, I believe, is also a top 5 performer in as well. 10 feet 8 inches. Like, Jack Campbell sitting at, I mean, he weighed in heavy too. Continues to be a guy that just, he didn't necessarily dominate, especially that 40, but in my opinion, kind of checked the box of, okay, he's 6'5", he's 250 pounds. You don't necessarily have to, he's not going to be a liability in terms of athleticism and speed, but he gets that position. There's rarely reps on film that he's filling the wrong gap. He takes on blocks extremely well. I mean, he continues to be a guy that's battling Trenton Simpson for my linebacker one spot. And I think Trenton Simpson will probably edge him out just because I think Trenton Simpson can really be special in the NFL. But Jack Campbell, for me, solidifies himself as linebacker too. Again, this was okay. Not to bang a dead horse, but we got to talk about one other guy here, and that is Big Tommy Adebawore. The 40-yard dash. I mean, this is a dude who weighed in at 282 pounds. He's only 6'1", 34-inch arms. He ran a 4.4940. The 10-yard split was extremely good. He's extremely explosive in his jumps with a 37.5-inch vert. At Northwestern, I don't think he had the ability to show what he could bring, but he's an elite athlete who, in my mind, was probably closer to like a fringe day 2, day 3, or round 2, round 3 pick. He's making a serious argument that he's a top 40 player, and he's so versatile. He can play inside. He can play that 3 tech because he's strong enough and he plays with good enough leverage, but he's also athletic enough and twitchy enough to play outside the tackle as well. Tommy Adebawore from Northwestern continues to be a riser. He looked awesome at the combine, followed up with a great combine workout as well. Again, some winners, some losers. Maybe one guy we talk about who maybe kind of left a little bit of a meat on the table is Brenton Cox. I want to find him. Keon White was another guy that I thought would test a little bit better than he did. And then Lucas Van Ness. He's another guy that you take a look. Everyone was talking about Lucas Van Ness and how powerful and explosive he is. And you see it on the film, but 31-inch vert, not necessarily like the most impressive. You take a look at how strong he is and necessarily pushing people. There wasn't necessarily, we got a lot of guys mentioned that I didn't realize. Tommy Adebawore, I mean, continues to be just in a top performer. Zach Harrison with 36-inch arms, 25 reps. Give me that. Myles Murphy, again, I'm going to keep pointing it out so people get it. Myles Murphy measured in with longer arms than Tyree Wilson, benches more than Tyree Wilson. Again, he's a guy that, and then Lucas Van Ness, again, he's supposed to be this explosive athlete, 275 pounds. Not a big vertical jump, not a great 40, not a great 10-yard split, only 17 reps on the bench press. It's just, I don't know if I necessarily see it as much as you see it on the film. You see flashes, but as in terms of it being a complete prospect, like Myles Murphy, I think edges those kind of guys out. Again, that'll do it for the boys on just a quick combine recap, talking about some winners, talking about some losers. Again, I appreciate the support you guys have shown. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.